Hi everyone, and welcome back to yet another exciting week of data analysis. I hope you guys are all staying warm in the snow. As I'm talking right now, it is coming down and it's going to be coming down for a while. So the topic for today's lecture is organizing and visualizing data. So I'd like to start out by putting up the data from the class survey. And I'm sure you guys are all very interested to learn a little bit about yourselves and your classmates this semester, so let's take a look. All right, so that's just a giant spreadsheet with a lot of numbers on it. You can see at the top there are words that look like some of the questions I asked you. So death penalty, police satisfaction, fear, kill, marry, a whole bunch of stuff. But the takeaway from this slide is that when you have data in a raw form like this, where you just have different variables and different numbers attached to them, you really can't get a whole lot from it. So what we're going to be doing in this lecture is going through different ways of taking data that looks like this and organizing it in ways that you can actually get something meaningful from it. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is the most simplest way of organizing data, which is to create a frequency distribution. And a frequency distribution is something that can be used for variables at every level of measurement. So as I mentioned last week, we cover levels of measurement because they're going to be useful as we go on throughout the course in telling us which different techniques for working with data that we can use. So in this lecture, for each of the things we cover, I'm also going to be talking about which types of data that you can use for that thing. So a frequency distribution we can use for any kind of variable. So whether or not you can put the attributes in order, whether or not they're numerical, and whether or not there's a true zero point, you can use a frequency distribution. And there are two steps to creating a frequency distribution. The first one is going to be to list all possible observations for a variable. In other words, list all of the values that this variable can take on. And then the next step is going to be to list the number of observations for each of those values that you just listed in the first step. And so what I'm going to do next, and what I'm going to be doing throughout the class when we come to things that involve a calculation of any kind or something where you actually are creating something, I'm going to switch over to a document camera where I'm going to go through an example using some data. And then I'll come back to the PowerPoint and keep talking. So when you see that little pencil thing with the number there, that says this is going to be our first hop over to the document camera.